Fire up the grill and gather around the TV on this spectacular Sunday night. We'll get some hard-hitting Southern football talk. Check out the Talkin' Football inbox, break out the BCS rankings, and begin sorting out the bowl picture. And our fearless experts pick the conference championship upsets. Let's talk some football.
And indeed we will talk some football. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Neal. Let me introduce our panel to you. Starting with him anyway, of course, Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Did you like that?
I like that. That's good.
Another Georgia guy.
I know. I was thought maybe I made a mistake there when I went to both Georgia guys. But the real story here is neither one of their schools not paying for the SEC championship, but his is. T. Martin, the former Tennessee great, led him to a national championship. And the last time that Tennessee won in the SEC championship game,
I was a quarterback.
Yeah, 98, long time. But I think they're ready to do it. They're ready to pull it off this week, I think.
All right, let's get right started because we've got a lot to talk about. Another ho-hum weekend. We'll start with a ho-hum game in Kentucky. Tennessee 52, Kentucky 50 in four overtimes. The tale of two halves, really, was brought to an end when Tennessee's Antonio Reynolds stuffed quarterback Andre Woodson's two-point conversion attempt in the fourth overtime. And now the resilient Vols are heading back to Atlanta, SEC East champions, after a 1-2 start, then becoming 4-3, and then 2-2 way back in October 20th. And they have really risen, the Volunteers.
Well, Bob, right there, the play before is where I thought Kentucky had a chance to win it, missed a wide open receiver. Now you get the 34-yard field goal by Lonnie Sieber. It's blocked. Tennessee put on what they call a desperation block. Philip Fulmer said if they'd have faked it, they'd have scored a touchdown. That was Kentucky's best chance to win it. Four heart-pounding overtimes. They ended up stopping a two-point conversion in the fourth overtime to win the game. And Mark Slayball, 1st and 40 in the fourth overtime. How does that happen?
I mean, Derek Ainge right down the middle of the field, the Quentin Hancock tee, nobody covered him. Just a bundle of missed opportunities for Kentucky. They intercept Ainge in the second overtime, leads to the blocked field goal, the 1st and 40. You know, T, I think you said it a couple of weeks ago. I thought Andre Woodson a little bit shaky under pressure late in this ball game.
I really don't think Kentucky's offensive line had enough to protect against the Tennessee defensive front. Early in the game, you saw Kentucky try to stick with the run a little bit to help protect Andre Woodson, but it didn't work. Then you saw in the second half, they started to spread Tennessee out so that he can get the ball out before they got to him. I think their plan in the second half was a lot better than their plan coming to the football game, and that's why going up 24-7 at halftime, then to squander that lead and let Kentucky get back in the game changed the second half for Kentucky.
You know, everybody looks at pro football this year. They talk about the dearth of quarterbacks. You know, where are the quarterbacks? Well, in the SEC particularly, but nationally, there are some great college quarterbacks. There were two in this game. Eric Ainge and Andre Woodson, outstanding matchup. Tennessee and Kentucky quarterbacks combined to throw for an amazing 827 yards and 13 touchdowns.
I think this may have been one of Eric Ainge's best games ever. It's 7 touchdowns, 3 in overtime. You know, almost 400 yards passing. I thought he was magnificent when he had to be. Now, I give Andre Woodson guys a lot of credit because he didn't play well early, got into a rhythm later on, and I thought Kentucky was going to win this game in regulation. But give the Tennessee Vols credit. They found a way to win and get it done.
I talked to Randy Sanders earlier today, and he said, have you ever seen a quarterback show put on like the one you saw yesterday? I said, no, never. I've never seen it. I was on the sideline when Peyton Manning went up against Tim Couch, a lot of yards thrown during that game, but not better than yesterday. You know, 4 overtimes, 2 quarterbacks who had one thing in common. That was Randy Sanders had the opportunity to coach both of those guys.
Yeah.
But it was great. Eric Ainge sets the Tennessee record for most touchdowns in the game with 7 touchdowns. But it was a show. It was a quarterback show. I love watching that game.
You know, Woodson and Tim Tebow at Florida, deservedly so, got all the attention in the SEC this season. But Ainge, when you consider what they lost after last year, Meacham, Swain, Brett Smith, for him to have Tennessee back in the SEC championship game, breaking in all those new receivers, I mean, that's a guy who was overlooked for much of the season.
Well, as we talk about that, Tennessee goes into the SEC championship game coming off of that 4 overtime win. However, LSU, going back to last Friday, loses 50-48. Under a Heisman-worthy performance by Darren McFadden. SEC standings now. Before we go over to our next segment, we have, by the way, an interesting piece coming up in a moment. In the East, there it is, Tennessee over Georgia because of Tennessee beating Georgia early in the year.
And that makes them co-champions right there.
And the shock is South Carolina, guys. You know how hot they started the season off in the fall down to number 5.
3 and 5.
Tough times in Columbia.
Absolutely. Now the SEC West, LSU at 6-2, and Auburn goes up to 8-4. Arkansas 8-4. Mississippi State 7-5. All those schools will be going to bowl games.
First 0-8 finish for Ole Miss in more than 20 years. Guy to watch at Ole Miss to replace Ed Orgeron, former Washington coach Rick Neuheisel.
After an energy drink. Unfortunately, so is this. Why do energy drinks make you crash? 1 minute you're wired up, the next you feel worse than before. The answer is
Our emails now, and our first email comes from Trey in Knoxville. That means, of course, we're going straight to T. Martin for this one. Is it a plus for Tennessee coming into the SEC championship hot off a win rather than flat and removed from a #1 spot like LSU? Is that written like a Tennessee fan or what?
Oh, no doubt about that one. I think it is good for Tennessee to come to this game hot off of a win like Kentucky's win for a few reasons. One reason being that it kind of seals the deal for Tennessee, being able to prove to everyone who thought they could not make it to this point, to prove everyone wrong. Everyone doubted that they can win the games down the stretch. You know, the tough games that we're going to take them to get to the SEC championship. They've done that. I think they'll be underdogs again. They'll rally behind the fact that they'll be 21-point underdogs against LSU. They'll rally around all of that stuff and go into this game hot and pull off the upset.
All right, we've got one more email from Knoxville, but I'm not letting one earlier in the year, and I know Missouri is changing, coming on. They're hot right now. Chase Daniel's great, but I don't know. I have a feeling about Oklahoma in that game. Here's 11 through 15. BC is at 11. Hawaii can't get no respect, but they're up there to the 12 hole.
That's where they had to be. That's I think with the win the other night over Boise State, I think Hawaii is in the game. Now, got to take care of business against Washington at home, but they should be able to do this. Hawaii will be in BCS. They will play LSU or Tennessee in the Sugar Bowl.
The other key,
Killing us.
Kentucky upsets Tennessee. Mark, you were so close.
fourth overtime loss this season.
And Tony, what were you thinking? I don't know.
I didn't really believe in that pick when I made it.
Okay, that's good, strong support for his opinion. Let's have a look now. Let's go. First of all, Mark, what do you have this week on your up end?
Tennessee is a hot football team. Tennessee over LSU for the SEC championship.
I saw these two guys like nose to nose in the hallway, and I thought, I wonder what T's convincing Tony to do. Well, that's it for Talking Football.